So in today's video, I want to talk all about feeling stuck. On your healing path, have you ever been working really hard at trying to overcome something or struggling with something, whether it be a pattern, a belief, a heavy emotion, maybe a negative thought loop, any of those things, and it just doesn't seem to want to resolve or go away, right? We've tried this healing, that healing, we've done this retreat or we've done changed our habits doing this. Or maybe we've been in therapy for a number of years and we're still struggling with this. Maybe we still feel anger towards our parents, for example. And, I know that I've been there. I've absolutely felt this way. And as a shamanic healer, this is often when clients come to see me, is because they're sort of at that breaking point, at that limit, and they just don't know how to get through it. And so I thought what would be helpful today is to share 5 common blocks that I see both with clients and on my own healing path, so that maybe it can help shine a little bit of a light for you. Because if we become a little bit more aware of where we're maybe feeling blocked, it can really help us move through that sometimes. If this is your first time joining me, welcome. My name is Cassie Mendez. I'm a shamanic healer and owner of The Spirit Within. I create content to help people navigate their healing path. And, I really feel like we don't have to be victims of our own circumstances, and we all have the power to heal and change our lives. So if that resonates with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. I also have a blog where I share my own healing journey. And I also put out a monthly newsletter that I provide insights and inspirations to help support you on your healing path. If you check out my website, thespiritwithin.com, you'll also find some free resources over there. And if one-to-one individual support is something that you're seeking, you can also find more information about my healing services there as well. Now let's go ahead and dive in. So block number 1. This is where we're, focusing on our external environment and not so much on our internal environment. So what does this mean? This means that we're seeing the solution to our problem as something outside of us, whether it be that person needs to change or the situation needs to change. I need something in my life to come to me before this will resolve, right? It's not a me problem, it's a you problem. Let's start with that one. So if somebody is in your life and they're causing you some sort of distress, or the relationship has some tension to it, then there's something for us to learn in that experience. And if we keep trying to put the responsibility of the situation, the resolution of the situation, onto the other person, we're missing the teaching moment, so to speak. And so we can begin to reflect on this a little bit. Maybe this person is mirroring something to us. Maybe we also hold this quality within us and we're just not opening ourselves up to seeing it. So we can ask ourselves, how am I similar to this person? How is my behavior similar to this person? I'll give you a quick example. So my father was an alcoholic his whole life. He's since passed away a few years back. But I always, for so many years, told myself that I'm nothing like him. Right? I'm not an addict. And it just simply wasn't true. I just wasn't willing to look at it. I was addicted to being a victim of my circumstances. I was also addicted to shopping. I would go shopping just to, distract myself from my feelings. So can always be a way. We just sometimes need to get a little bit creative to figure out what that might be. Okay? Now, the other aspect of it is our external environment. So, if I get a new job, then all will be well. If I get a new partner, things will shift, right? And maybe there's some truth to this, right? Maybe we've outgrown our current job, or, our partner is just not really encompassing the qualities that we really want in a partner. I understand that. However, if we have this experience going on in our life, those changes are going to start from within, right? So maybe there's tension in our partnership because we're not focusing on the fact that we don't love ourselves enough. So we're trying to get that subconsciously through our partner with validation and attention. So if we work on the inner environment within us and build a loving environment towards ourselves, within ourselves, then a couple things might happen. Our current relationship that we're in may actually change with it. We could be surprised what can change in our lives when we change ourselves. Or maybe that relationship will fall away and we find a new partner who aligns with our new self love that we're sort of emanating, right? So take a moment to see if this block resonates with you, if you can see a little bit of yourself, a little bit of your situation in this one. Okay, so block number 2. This is inactive integration. So, what do I mean by this? When we're on a healing path, it's really important for us to take action on our path, right? We can't just sit there and wish these things to be changed, right? We have to actually be an active participant in our healing process. Now, when we shift something on an energetic level, there's also other aspects to it as well. We have the emotional level, we have the level of the body, because within our body, when we have these past wounds or traumatic experiences, then they can sort of take residence in our body, and we want to sort of clear that out as well. Now, energy shifts do help do that, but we want to follow through with welcoming in this new energetic expression in our body. It would be like planting a seed in a garden, and if we don't tend to it, then they're really not going to bloom to their fullest potential. So we want to do things that help to facilitate these shifts within us, whether it be through affirmations or meditation or whatever self-care that feels right for you. We want to nurture the seed that has been planted within us. So I'll give you a quick story with this from my own path. Anytime I went to either see a therapist or see a healer, it was always for the same reason. It was just anxiety, right? And it took me many years to realize that I was just kind of going through this because I had an expectation that I wasn't really admitting to myself that they would just resolve the problem for me. And I didn't have to do any work on my own end to help continue to nurture this healing. And eventually I realized that there were some underlying emotions that I wasn't taking responsibility for. And even though I would feel some relief shortly after healing sessions, I wasn't really stepping out of my comfort zone, right? So for me and my experience, anxiety meant that I would really shut myself out from new experiences because I just had this fear that my anxiety would come back up in like social situations, for example. And so I would still stay retracted. I didn't try to push my comfort limit, which would have helped me actually get through it a lot better and integrate the new supportive energy. So really take a moment to ask yourself if you're being a full active participant on your own healing path. So block number 3 is maybe we don't really in our hearts want this issue to go away. We don't want to resolve the struggle. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why the heck would I want that? Like, this is causing a lot of trouble in my life, and I just want it to go away. But hear me out for a second, because sometimes these difficulties in our life, we're actually gaining something from it. And I don't necessarily mean that in a good way, right? So I'm going to give you an example from my own path. A lot of times in the past, I just relished in being the victim, right? It was this woe is me energy. And anybody who was willing to hear my problems of the day, I would love to share it with them because most of the time, a lot of the time, I would get sympathy and attention and, gosh, you're so strong and resilient, all these things. So I was fulfilling this need that boosted my self-esteem in a way that was outside of me, right? I wasn't cultivating it within me. It was outside of me. Refer back to block number 1, right? So I was gaining something and did not want to let this go because I just didn't see a way to get that for myself. So now I see things a little bit differently, but at the time and for all those years, that was what sustained me, right? So that I could continue ignoring the fact that I wasn't giving myself any love whatsoever, right? So, one question that we can ask ourselves with a situation in our life to sort of check in on this is, how am I benefiting from having this in my life, right? And if you feel triggered in any way or feel defensive about this particular block, perhaps it's worth looking at a little bit more closely. When it comes to this particular one, we don't always like the answer that we hear, and that's okay. But if we don't bring our awareness to it, then it's going to be really difficult to move through this, right? It's all about honesty with ourselves, right? Awareness and honesty. And that can be difficult sometimes. Okay, we're on to block number 4. And this one involves ignoring the incoming data. So, what do I mean by this one? Well, when we're working through something on our healing path, we're often given insight, like our intuition can help guide us through this struggle, right? And if we have a lot of emotions going on, especially, it can be really hard for that incoming data to come through. So, with that type of interference, because there's maybe a few different types at play here, then we really want to try to slow ourselves down, sort of have some sort of mindfulness practice or journaling. If sitting still is really difficult for you, journaling and getting things out via writing, that can be very helpful. Or even art, painting, or, a lot of artists get their emotions out on the canvas, right? That can help sort of discharge some of the energy so that we can begin to get those signals in. The other aspect of this is having a really clear idea of how you connect and receive messages. If intuition is something that is new to you, then I encourage you just to learn a little bit more about it. Whether it's through clairaudience, claircognizant, clairsentient, all the different clairs, learn about them and see which ones resonate with you, okay? Which ones that you've experienced in your life. The other aspect of this is we're getting clear messages, but we're also ignoring them, right? So the funny thing about intuition, at least for me on my path, is a lot of times we might get messages in the form of a metaphor, or we might have this random thought pop into our mind, and we then disregard it. We don't see it as either important data, or we see it as, that's crazy, that just came from my mind, that's not a message, right? So we sort of throw it in the trash. But we need to start really trusting what's coming through. And even if it sounds weird or crazy, we just got to follow through, right? And as we follow through on these, we build our trust with our intuition that is coming through, right? That's really the only way to do it, is we have to take it and trust it and see how it goes. And then we begin to understand and filter out better what is actually guidance and what is the non-self. And we begin to be able to distinguish between the two a lot better as we practice. And then the other aspect of this could be that we get the message, we hear the message, but we're too scared to take the steps, right? We're too scared to put ourselves out there to move through this. And that's okay. I get it. Like, I've been there so many times. But one thing I want to say about that is when we feel scared to do something, there's never going to necessarily be a perfect moment where all the fear goes away and then we move forward. As we're feeling the fear, we take those steps forward, and then magically that fear begins to sort of wash off of us, So if this is the issue at hand for you, then I encourage you to just try and have some courage and get through it, because it does get easier over time. It does get better, right? We begin to trust what's coming through, and it begins to get easier to take these steps forward to make changes in our life. So block number 5 is about worthiness. As we're walking on our healing path, there perhaps could be a part of us that doesn't feel like we deserve to be healed or loved or at peace or cared for, whatever it is that you're working on in particular. And it's worth sort of feeling into that to see if there's any truth to that for you. And healing for us, these wounds can have multiple different layers to them, and they often do, right? We want to feel loved, and we're working really hard at healing so that we can feel that within us. But if there's a part of us that doesn't feel like we deserve it, then it's almost like putting the cart before the horse, right? It's just not going to be as smooth of a process as it can be, because we need to sort of deal with that underlayer before we can get to the main wound, right? And one activity that you can do to sort of check in with this, if you feel like this may be the key for you, is you can go to the mirror and you can say, I deserve to be, and then fill in the blank. Whatever it is that you're working on, fill in the blank there. I deserve to be loved. And look at yourself as you're saying it and just sort of witness how it feels in your body. Do you feel like some tension coming up? Does it feel uncomfortable to you? Do you feel weird about saying it? And for me, when I do this activity, if I'm looking in the mirror and saying these things to myself, then I start blinking my eyes when I say the word. Like if I say I deserve to be loved, at the love part, I might start, sort of blinking my eyes so I don't have to look at myself. Our body can really tell us where we're stuck, right? Where the trigger points are. So try that activity and see if it brings up any feelings or any tension in your body. So those are the 5 blocks. And yeah, see if any of them sound familiar to you. Or if you're experiencing any of them now or have had in the past. We're all walking this path of healing together, and sometimes sharing our own experiences, they can be the light bulb that somebody needs to sort of trigger that awareness on their own path. So I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to share your experience with them in the comments. And if there's ever any topics that you want me to discuss in the future, you can always pop those in the comments as well. I'd love to hear what y'all are working through and see if I have any, inspiration from my own path to share on that. And if you're looking for any individual support on your healing path, I'd love to walk this journey with you. You can check out my services at my website, thespiritwithin.com. So until we meet again next time, y'all take care. Bye, guys.